Alright, so in the last video, we were looking at some of the prerequisites, right? We are talking about what are the different ways we can manage Azure. Uh, um, so one is through the Azure portal, then and the second one which you were just seeing was the Azure Cloud Shell. And the Azure Cloud Shell, you have an option to either use Bash or PowerShell. PowerShell is for Windows, Bash is for Linux users, and this is all browser based. So you don't need to do any installation or perform any installation, so to speak. So that is that. So let's move on. Um, okay, all right. So this is Azure PowerShell. This is obviously Windows based, right? Um, and this is something that it's a module you can add to your Windows PowerShell or PowerShell core. Um, and this is an example which you're giving, which is like a PowerShell command. It's called new azvm, and that's for creating a virtual machine inside your Azure subscription. And in PowerShell, obviously remembering or memorizing the commands is important, right? And you also need to know what are the attributes that are associated to the command, right? So in this case, yeah, we can apply or use the resource group name, um, image, and a name. So new azvm. So this is obviously uh, uh, self explanatory. So it's you know that it's for creating a new Azure VM. So and this is within a resource group called CRM testing resource group, using an Ubuntu image, right? So you're not using Windows, you're using Ubuntu in this example. Um, so to use it, you will launch the PowerShell application and then issue a command such as the following. But obviously, before running this command, we will need to connect to our Azure tenant. There is obviously um, there is a different set of commands for that to connect to your Azure tenant, and once you're connected or successfully authenticated to your Azure tenant from your PowerShell, you could then run uh, these commands, right? So Azure PowerShell is available two ways: inside a browser via Azure Cloud Shell, via Azure Cloud Shell that we just saw, or with a local installation on Linux, macOS, or Windows operating system. So now it looks like it's available in Linux or on macOS, which is good. So it's cross-platform. So in both cases, you have two modes from which to choose. You can use it in interactive mode, in which you manually issue one command at a time, or in scripting mode where you execute a script that consists of multiple commands. Right. Uh, so you have two options to if you want to run it or execute it one at a time, or you have multiple commands in a file, and you could run as a script, run it all at once, right? So or sequentially. So um, and the AZ module, it's the Azure PowerShell module containing commandlets working to work with Azure features. It consists of hundreds of commandlets, and you can work with the following features and even more. So resource group, storage, VMs, that's what you just saw. New AZ VM. You're trying to create a new instance of an Azure VM. And you have Azure AD containers, machine learning. So it's available on GitHub. And all right, so there's something to note here. Let's look at it. So you might have seen or used Azure PowerShell commands that used an Azure RM format. So in December 2018, Microsoft released for general availability the Azure RM module replacement with the AZ module. So from what you're seeing here, AZ module is replacing um, Azure RM. So I think Azure RM is older, right? And the AZ module is the more recent one. And uh, so this new module has several features, notably a shortened commandlet, noun prefix of AZ, which replaces AZ, it replaces Azure RM. So this is obviously from the new module, right? From the AZ module, because the way we know that is because you can see the prefix. It's the prefix is AZ, right? Otherwise, if it was the older module, it would have been AZRM, AZRM. So this is AZ. The AZ module ships with backward compatibility for the AZRM module. So the AZRM commandlet format will still work. So again, that's good to know, right? So basically, what it says is that AZ module that's a newer module in Azure, and that is replacing Azure RM. But um, um, the AZ module um, has supports or it has backward compatibility with Azure RM, so you could still use the Azure RM commandlets with the AZ module, right? The one of the benefits of the AZ module is it's a shortened commandlet, so you're only using prefixing the command with AZ, right? So and it says to bookmark the Azure PowerShell reference. So let's take a look. Okay, this is interesting, right? So it's pretty vast. Um, all right, so yeah, the overview, how do you install it, right? How do you install it with Microsoft, or run it in Docker? What is new? Um, PowerShell reference, identity and authentication, concepts, managing subscriptions, filter commandlets, configuration, deploy, samples, and it's talking about migration from Azure VM. All right. Anyway, so this is good to know. It's always yeah, it's always good to bookmark it, right? You never know when you might need it for reference. So in the next video, we will be looking at Azure CLI. So until then, see you next time.